Welcome to the January 23rd, 2023 meeting of the Grafton Planning Board. Tonight's meeting is going to be held in remote and in-person participation, so every vote will be by roll call. I will postpone the roll call of the board because our first agenda item is an executive session that we will need to enter. So, where's my thing? So we have an executive session for Brigadi Village to be held as an executive session due to that open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body. And I would like a motion on the board to enter executive session.
I move that we go into executive session for the purposes just mentioned.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to enter executive session. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Robbins.
Aye.
Mr. Hassinger.
Aye.
Ms. Hassinger.
Aye.
Mr. Venkatraman.
Aye.
And I vote aye. So this board will adjourn the public meeting temporarily. We'll rejoin on a separate Zoom for executive session. And then when executive session is over, we will rejoin the public meeting and continue our business as intended. Back to the January 23rd, 2023 Planning Board meeting. We just resumed from executive session. And I will begin, as always, with a remote meeting notice. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Act of 2021, this meeting of the Grafton Planning Board is being conducted with both in-person and remote participation by board members and members of the public. Remote participation by the public for the public comment agenda item, the public hearings, and any other matter for which the board allows public participation will be via the Zoom raise hand feature. If you raise your hand on Zoom, you will be enabled at an appropriate point to enter the meeting via voice or video to make a comment or ask a question. In all cases, whether in person or remote, please identify yourself by name and address for the record. Every vote tonight will be taken by roll call. Please note that this meeting is being recorded as well as being broadcast live on the Grafton Community Television Government Channel. I'll begin with the roll call of the board. Mr. Robbins?
Present.
Mr. Hassinger?
I'm here.
Ms. Hassinger?
Present.
Mr. Venkatraman?
Here.
And Associate Member Moore McCormack?
Here.
And I am here as well. And staff present, I'm not going to ask them to say they're here, but Fiona Coughlin, Town Planner, Eve Tapper, the interim Town Planner,
I don't know what my title is anymore.
and also Natalia Alward is present. So, given that it is now 7:35, which is after the time of our first public hearings scheduled, I will note that the request for modification definitive plan at Village at Institute Road, from Pulte Homes, there is a request to continue the hearing on our file.
Move that the board grant the applicant's written request to continue this hearing to February 13th at 7:30 p.m.
I have
Second.
a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes, Eve?
I think that the applicant is here and wanted to have a brief conversation before actually continuing it.
Continue.
Hi, good evening. Thanks, Eve. Yeah, so again, similar to we were here a couple weeks ago, we don't have a major update. We've been meeting with staff, Fiona, and zoning enforcement officer or zoning code, Mr. Berger, to talk about this. And we have to go back to better identify what is going to work in that application and in that for that plan. So we hope to reconvene the meetings that we've had over the past couple of weeks over the next week or two. And so that at the next meeting on February 13th, we'll have a more informative update. But I appreciate your time and apologize for the last minute request for continuance this afternoon. But again, we're still working with staff to identify the best path forward there.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you for that clarification.
Better to take the time you need to get it the way you want it.
Absolutely. Any
Thank
further,
you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Mr. Hassinger,
Aye.
Ms. Hassinger,
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Venkatraman,
Aye.
and I vote aye. I declare the motion carried unanimously. So we will pick up the public hearing on this on February 13th. That brings us back up to the top of our agenda for action items, which our first one is a lot release request for 11 Wheeler Road for lots numbers 1 and 2 in Stillwater Estates. Do you want to kick us off, Fiona? Or do we have the developer to...
Don't.
I could probably be helpful.
Sure.
Sorry. This is Rob Knappich. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's a pleasure to be before you again. And I appear before you on behalf of Brad Wright, who's with me this evening, of Wright Realty Trust, the owner and developer of the Stillwater Estates subdivision. And this is, as reflected in your agenda, request to release lots 1 and 2. You may recall that the developer had posted or entered into a covenant with the board that's been recorded. I think it was at your last meeting, you agreed to release, or perhaps a meeting before, you agreed to release 4 of the 6 lots from the covenant. And construction on those lots has commenced. We also entered into with the town and the developer's lender a tripartite agreement. That tripartite agreement secures unto the lender funds available for the town in the event that the developer fails to complete the roadways and infrastructure. And the amount set forth in that tripartite agreement is based on an estimate of the remaining, an estimate of the cost to complete the remaining roadways and infrastructure. So the town does have security. What we're asking for this evening is that the town release lots 2 from only the covenant, not the tripartite agreement. That would leave the town with the tripartite agreement, again, securing those funds available and for the town's use in the event that the developer should fail to complete the roadways and install the infrastructure. Thank you.
All right. And I should note from briefly discussing with staff, this is normal course of our proceedings with regards to when we have the tripartite agreement to cover the roadway and stuff. This is normal for us.
Could I be reminded? Usually with bonds, we go through. We have the estimate from our engineer, and we use that number as the number. Did we do that in this case, or is the number coming from somewhere else?
We did have the number that was involved in the tripartite agreement.
So we're working with the number that we've dealt with, and
yes.
Okay.
All right. Do I have a motion?
We do it.
All right. So I have a motion that we do it.
I'll second that.
And a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Mr. Robbins.
Aye.
Mr. Hassinger.
Aye.
Ms. Hassinger.
Aye.
Mr. Venkatraman.
Aye.
And I vote aye. The motion carried unanimously. Fiona, is this one that we need the board to come in and sign as a whole?
Yes.
Okay.
You're going to need. I'm not able to do it yet.
Okay. Just wanted to double check.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You as well.
It needs to be signed and witnessed by a notary, so you have to come when Natalia's.
Yeah. All right.
Will it be available tomorrow?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we
Yes.
can. Natalia should be in tomorrow, but we can also arrange that offline. We don't need to take this meeting for
She
that.
just said yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're Linda and I are trying to get in there still it's been hard to assign the registry.
Our next agenda item is an approval not required A&R Plan 2023-01 for 100 Westboro Road, DNF Alfonso Builders and Pulte Homes of New England. This project, as the board recalls, has as for our mixed use development there, the Court of Institute and Westboro Road. This A&R, as shown, is splitting up the parcel into two to essentially split to what Pulte Homes is responsible for in the most recent modification, which is the multifamily, buildings down there with its garage, I believe it was, and the mixed use portion, which is closer to Westboro Road, that Alfonso is responsible for. Now, it's a question for staff. Do we have? I remember briefly talking about this before it came to the, in front of the board. Do we have what you need to handle the situation that would result with the decision that we had finalized with this?
Yes, yeah, I believe it. We do. We
Okay.
have everything that we need. So.
All right.
I believe there's a condition in the latest modification that says if they split it up,
Yes.
the
Okay.
decision requires both.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Any comments, questions from the board or the applicants on this?
I had one question. Is this so the original Pulte proposal, is this being split 3 ways now? I thought initially it was split between residential and commercial, and then is the commercial again being split into 2? Is that what is happening with this right now?
It's not
Yeah.
being split into 3. It's being split into 2 separate lots to separate the ownership between Pulte and Alfonso. This was originally on the exhibit that was submitted, Exhibit 18, as well as documented in the decision that this would be happening. So it's
Yep.
really kind of standard. I don't know if Essek, you would like to. I saw that Essek is still here to speak to this if he is interested in doing so, but they should be all set.
Thanks, Fiona. Prabhu, if you remember that when we first presented, this is the same split up. It's the mixed use for Alfonso with the commercial on the first floor and the residential above, and then the Pulte piece, which is just the multifamily residential.
Yes. So,
Yeah. No.
Mr. Venkataman, if you recall in the most recent modification that was presented when they initially came before us, there was a gate basically separating the two areas. This is
Right.
essentially separating right where that gate would have been, roughly speaking.
Got it.
And I would note too that the A&R does nothing more than split one lot into 2 lots. The A&R doesn't change ownership or really do anything else, but it is consistent with what's been planned.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
And with that, I will move that the board find that approval is not required for this and authorize the planner to sign on behalf of the board.
Second.
Second.
I
Don't
do it yet.
would suggest that the board authorizes the chair to sign, since the West Registry of Deeds paperwork is not completely filled out.
Right, until we get the registry pit, I'll amend my motion to authorize the chair of the board to sign on behalf of the board.
And I'll agree to the change.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Robbins.
Aye.
Mr. Hassinger.
Aye.
Mrs. Hassinger.
Aye.
Mr. Venkatraman.
Aye.
And I vote aye. I declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much all. And so just so I'm clear from a protocol perspective, it is just the Chairman Wood that needs to sign the plan. And do we have a sense if that's something that could happen tomorrow as well? I know that the previous agenda item had been signing tomorrow.
I'll sign it by end of day tomorrow, possibly earlier in the morning, but I'll try earlier, but at least by end of day.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate your attention to that.
You're welcome.
Fiona, I'll touch base just so we can coordinate on that. But thank you very much, board.
What's that?
I don't think that needs a notary.
It does not. So
You can do it tonight.
Perfect. Thank you, Essek. Talk soon.
Good night, all.
all right. That brings us to our next agenda item, which is action item status for open space and recreation plan. Mr. Robbins, you feel free to kick this
Okay.
off.
Yeah, in the meeting materials is a table of action items that have been assigned to the planning board. And I've edited that table to reflect what I believe to be the current status of those action items that were assigned to the board. Hopefully you all had a chance to look at that, or else you just trust me to get it right, and we're just asking for the board's concurrence on this.
Do you want a formal motion?
I suppose so. It's probably not absolutely necessary, but I mean, if informally nobody objects, I can accept that.
No, so moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Oh, I'll second it.
All right, I have a motion and a second to concur with Mr. Robbins' entries in this table. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Mr. Hassinger,
Aye.
Ms. Hassinger,
Aye.
Mr. Venkatraman,
Aye.
and I vote aye. The motion carried unanimously. Good work, Mr. Robbins. Thank you.
Yes. If this was any other board discussing this, I would ask them to email me a copy of their status table. But I think I kind of have one in hand already, so I don't think I need the formality of, sending paperwork back to me.
All right, thank you.
Since I am the person to whom it would be directed.
And you're the person who sent it out.
Makes sense. All right. So our next agenda item is a discussion item regarding our master plan.
Yes. So I think I am. Everyone can hear me now, right? Just for confirming. Okay,
Yep.
great. So just an update on the master plan. So I had been talking to CMRPC a lot of the past few weeks to get the phase 2 up and running. So essentially, I've been talking to them about the status of the phase 2 and phase 3 contract. However, now the phase 1 is officially closed. However, the price for phase 3 had originally increased by a sizable amount. It went up from $20,000 to $50,000 since the original price proposal submission in January of 2022. So from there, I wanted to just kind of assess what our options are in terms of funding going forward. So I've been talking to CMRPC, as I mentioned, about pursuing an EEA grant to cover the cost of that. That grant application period should open in April and close in May of this year. CMRPC has allegedly a very good track record in terms of securing EEA grants and helping with those applications and kind of getting those things through. So we're excited for that. The grant award would be up to $15,000 and requires a town match of $12,500. So we are going to pursue that. But more importantly, phase 2 looks like we're kind of off and running, and we're off to a good start because we can work toward making progress. We had $20,000 from last year's town meeting that was approved to start working, and I was made aware after the fact that we had more money available from the FY24 operating budget for the master plan. So we can kind of continue to press on and coordinate with signing, which I should be able to get a final contract scope and funding strategy by CMRPC tomorrow. So things have been moving. It definitely, I wish I could have given a more concrete update in terms of actually starting the engagement processes involved in phase 2, because it's going to be very exciting and fun, but we just want to wait until our contract logistics were finalized, which we're at the tail end of that now. So just a matter of signing and then regrouping to figure out how we're going to structure the survey, the public engagement sessions, and the rest of the scope. So it's my long-winded update for you.
So regarding the May town meeting funding, is this going to be rolled directly into the town's operating budget as part of the their funding request to the town, or do you know if it's going to be its own article at town meeting?
Believe its own article.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the previous two rounds of funding were part of the capital budget, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
So that was separate from the operating budget.
Yes.
But yeah, is included as one of a number of items in the capital budget, if I'm remembering correctly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why did the price go up? Why did the price go up?
So when I spoke to CMRPC and pushed back about that, they said that the original scope was just not sufficient enough to cover what we need to in terms of trying to get meaningful input and build out the plan as properly as we should. So
And
Wasn't the whole, just help me remember, I don't know if you remember this offhand or as members of the board do. What, didn't we RFP this all three phases at the same time? Or did we RFP separately? I forget what we chose to do.
Yeah, the RFP was three separate phases.
yeah,
yes, yeah.
Okay.
So things have definitely been in flux since, I mean, it's been a year since the original price proposal was submitted, so it's definitely been a lot of back and forth, but hopefully we can, phase two, we have almost all of the funding to get that done besides, the 10,000, so we'll be covering that as well. But, we definitely have enough to be able to start, jumping into phase two in earnest, so. But yeah,
Evan
in
is on
terms
top
of
of this.
sorry.
Evan is on top of this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Evan is on top.
Is Evan on
Oh,
top of this?
Yes, so I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Yes, Evan is aware. I've been keeping him in the loop about any and all things regarding this contract, to make sure he's cleared. So
Yep. Yeah. Just to to more definitively answer an earlier question, the master plan in the amount of $50,000 was one of the items on the capital budget for the current fiscal year, and presumably it will be included in the capital budget for the next fiscal year. And there may be additional funding that might be fitted into the budget somewhere. But yeah, my recollection was correct. I was just looked up the minutes of the meeting, and it was indeed on the capital plan.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. All right. If I'm correct, you do not need any motion or anything further from the board in this.
No.
Wonderful.
No, I'm presuming that we can look forward to perhaps at our next meeting, digging into the work on kicking off the next phase.
yes, absolutely. I think it'll be a lot. We can actually start to make some serious progress because we'll have that finalized scope and really understand what CMRPC is going to be expecting of the board versus what they will be doing, because they had made some kind of preliminary suggestions, but without a proper revised scope of work. I don't want to say that the planning board will have to be responsible for something that they won't. So
Yep.
next time we'll be able to move
Next
forward
time.
for sure.
Next time. Can't wait to get this moving for real.
Likewise.
All right. Moving on then. This is going to be a quick meeting. We have no minutes of previous meetings, which brings us to staff report.
Yes, it's me. I'm up again. So I have a few things here. It's been busy. Other than the progress being made toward the master plan contract, we recently received a district local technical assistance grant from CMRPC for the 5 Mill Street Park assessment and redesign study. So I have a call with them, the two project managers from CMRPC, early next week to talk about implementation for that project. It's very exciting. We worked, as I think folks remember from the last meeting, we worked closely with the EDC to craft the application and get it through. So that's very exciting. I've been working on a Mass Trails grant application for the Institute Woods feasibility study, permitting, design, and engineering next steps. So that I'm working closely with the assessor's office and other folks to provide the backup documentation to submit that, but going to be submitting that by February 1st.
Just to ask on that real quick.
Sure.
So, in my understanding that the CPC grant that was years ago, that was all set and complete, but this is the two target for the next steps in that process.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that's where we were working with VHB to make sure that we're moving the project along now that we finally have the completed version. I am working with on a dam application for a dam reconstruction relief with the folks from Fisherville redevelopment property. The dam is in a pretty bad condition, and that site is obviously very sensitive, as many folks know. So we're just kind of talking with the state about options that we can make sure to get that dam in better condition and conducive and less dangerous for folks downstream. So from there, I am also recently had the hazard mitigation plan finalized and adopted and submitted to FEMA. So that was exciting. The Board of Selectmen approved that at their last meeting. We submitted our annual report. We submitted our MBTA Communities Action Plan. I'm working on setting us up with the Community One-Stop application through the state for various grants and projects. I've been working with CMRPC to finalize our regional build out, which was a process that the former planner was working on and just needed some finalizing. We're moving forward on our complete streets. Working with the building and zoning enforcement officer and building inspector to update our zoning for town meeting, which we kind of all but finalized the other day. We have my colleague Natalia and I have been working on updating the planning website to make sure that all of the information is up to date in terms of the plans and projects. We recently did an overhaul of the development projects page, so that's done. And just a couple more things, and then I know I have a lot here. Basically just continuing to work with developers. We had 124 Westboro talk to us at development team meetings. That went well. And lastly, we have our housing production plan. The next steps are moving forward with the trust. So we wanted to notify the planning board members if you are interested in attending or sending correspondence regarding the housing production plan, please let me know. Their next meeting is on February 9th at 7:45, and I will be attending as well. So if anyone is interested, let me know, and I will work with staff to get that squared away.
All right.
So it's been busy.
Glad to hear it. On our end.
Yeah.
So, let me ask while the thoughts in my mind. VHB has been working on the MS4 compliance. That's been a project that's been ongoing for several years, but my recollection is that one of the outputs for this current year was to be recommendations for strengthening low impact development requirements in our zoning bylaw and subdivision regulations. Do you have any sense of where that work is and when or if we can expect something to come to our attention?
I have not been able to touch base with VHB about that, Dave, but I will do that, and I will send an update. Absolutely. Yeah.
Just, I mean, that did sort of come into the open space action plan, right, as part of that. And so, and as you probably know, or maybe don't know, we a couple of years ago we updated our subdivision rules and regulations, but low impact development in that we anticipated that the VHB study would possibly give us more recommendations for updates. But whenever it comes, it comes.
Sure. Yes, I'll definitely check in on that. Thank you.
Any more comments regarding staff report?
Nope. That's all I have for you for now.
All right. That brings us to correspondence. Anyone see anything in the correspondence they want to talk about tonight? Hearing none. Reports from planning board representatives on town committees and CMRPC.
Well, I was at a CMRPC Physical Development Committee meeting last Thursday night, and Fiona was there, and she presented this thing for Grafton about DLTA funding, which we managed to approve. Thank you, Fiona. I think that's about it.
And as the board's representative on the Open Space and Recreation Committee, we've already dealt with the only thing I could have talked about, which is the action item status. And the committee is collecting that from all of the various boards and committees who are involved in it, but the planning board has now done its part.
All right. And I got nothing to add. So that brings us to our next agenda item. Anyone want to extend the meeting past 10 p.m.?
I don't see that on my list over here. No, I want to move to adjourn.
All right. I have a motion to adjourn. Any second?
I'll second that.
And a second. This is a non-debatable motion. Mr. Robbins.
Aye.
Mr. Hassinger.
Aye.
Ms. Hassinger.
Nay.
You're home. Mr. Veckatraman.
Hi.
And I vote aye. I declare the motion carried unanimously. Have a good night, everyone. For those of you driving, drive safe.
Right, we could vote to extend the meeting past 10. Doesn't obligate